Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to assembled Vaishnava devotees. Ishwara Prabhu was supposed to be here. He could not be here today because he fell ill. So we humbly requesting devotees to pray for his speedy recovery. This is material world. Things do happen. But at least we are thankful that he was able to communicate with us for us to know what was going on. So, as usual, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu stepped in to speak because Srimad Bhagavatam has to go on. So, as usual, we thank you so much, SALIKA Prabhu, for stepping in. And we may put the verse on the screen and you take it over from here. Hare Krishna. SALIKA Prabhu, you are muted.
We can go ahead. Hare Krishna. Narayana namaskritam narayavam naruttamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jayam Biraye Nasta Apraishu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavatam Uttamam Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 16. We are reading from text number 5. The title is named according to Srila Prabhupada. The two bookkeepers of Vaikuntha Jaya and Vijaya caused by the sages. So we'll read the Sanskrit text and we try to share something. Yannamanita Vinati Loko Britye Kritagasi So Saruvadasta Akritim Ante Twacham Ivamayaha Yannamane Chagrina Ati Loko Britye Kritagasi So Asadu Vadastat Kreetim Ante Twacham Ivamayaha. We take it once again. Yannamani Chagrinati Loko Britye Kritagasi So Asadu Vadastat Kreetim Ante Twacham Ivamayaha. What word translation? Yat of whom? Namani, the names, Cha and Grianati, take. Loka, people in general. Britye, when a servant. Krit Agasi has committed something wrong. Sa, that. Asadu, Vadaha, blame. Tat, of that person. Kritim, the reputation. Anti, destroys. Twachaham, the skin. Eva, us. Amayaha, leprosy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, by Charanara Vinde Isibakti Vedanta Swami Devagushla Prabhupada. A wrong act committed by a servant leads people in general to blame his master. Just as a spot of white leprosy on any part of the body pollutes all of the skins. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A Vaishnava, therefore, should be fully qualified, as stated in the Bhagavatam. Anyone who has become a Vaishnava has developed all the good qualities of the demigods. There are 26 qualifications mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. A devotee should always see that his Vaishnava qualities increase with the advancement of his Krishna consciousness. A devotee should be blameless because any offense by the devotee is a scar on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotee's duty is to be always conscious in his dealings with others, especially with another devotee of the Lord. Umagyanam timiram dasya gyanam gyanam shalakaya shaksho militam yena tasmai shri gurave namah. Hey Krishna Karuna Shindu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaustute Tatta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vindavane Eshwari Rishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Nari Priye Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripata Bande Sri Guru Dinatarina Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Satitmane Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasachade Satarine Vanchakarpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyasivascha Patitanam Pavashnavyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srinivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nyannamane chagri nati loko britye kritagasi so asado vadasta akritim anti tocham iva maya. A wrong act committed by several servants leads people in general to blame his master, just as a spot of white leprosy on any part of the body pollutes all of the skin. Hare Krishna. First, before trying to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, I want to offer my respectful obeisances unto all of the Vaishnava devotees who are on this platform listening to this class this evening in local time. And I'm praying that by their mercy, we shall be able to speak something that will be purifying and of pleasure to the Lord and the satisfaction of his devotees. Today's class is taken from third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 16, and the text is number 5. The title is The Two Doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijaya, Caused by the Sages. It's a continuation of our reading, and for the purpose of this class, I would not want to go too detailed into the story of Jaya and Vijaya, because from the last month, we've been hearing the stories from different speakers. So today's discourse, I will not be focusing much on the historical or story background of Jaya and Vijaya, because I'm sure we all have had the storyline. The particular text we're dealing with today is specifically talking about what Srila Prabhupada would call preaching application. In the systematic study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 3 cardinal points that are put into reference, especially for those of us who are coming in the line of the Gaudiya Vaishnava, Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, coming through Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that for devotees, those of his followers, should, in reading any of the verses of the scriptures, should look at the mood, the preaching mood of the previous acharyas, the preaching applications of the particular text of whatever scriptures or text we're reading. And what we are reading today, Prabhupada gave a very strong analogy to express the scenario that is being pictured in this particular text. Of course, as we know, Jaya and Vijaya were servants of the, not just ordinary person, they are servants of the most supreme personality, the omniscient Lord of all that be, the supreme personality of God and himself. And these devotees, due to some desire of the Lord, like I said, I wouldn't want to go into details. Desire of the Lord culminated with the need for teaching. Because as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, yada yada idamasya, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious principles, God, Krishna, decides to come to the material world to teach. As he says in the second verse, Paritanaya Sadhuna, he comes and he gives pastimes to protect devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, and as well as to teach. So the story of Jaya and Vijaya is one of those kind of a scenario that the Lord wanted to teach. The Lord wants to fulfill his desire for the spirit of fighting. Sometimes those who are not knowledgeable sometimes create a God different from the supreme God, and that makes it as if there are too many gods. Because those who are less intelligent consider that there are certain qualities that are of this material world that is not coming from the Lord. But that is not what the Vedic scriptures teaches us. Lord Krishna explained in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that everything, both animate, inanimate, everything that can be conceived, it can be inconceivable, are all coming from him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes people think that the spirit or the mood of fighting is something demonic or something outside of the Lord. But Nothing can exist without the Lord or outside of the Lord. So the Lord sometimes also wants to sport, and he wants to be the mood of fighting. So for that purpose, as previous speakers have already explained on this point, for that purpose of that Lord, the Lord wanting to exhibit this mood, and as well as to teach lessons, the Lord he created a scenario in which, because in the spiritual world, there cannot be vices. In the environment of the Supreme Personality of God, there cannot be vices. There are several scriptural texts that has proven to this. In the spiritual world, in Lord Brahma, after glorifying Lord Krishna, he was describing the Goloka Vrindavan, and he was describing the environment of that place. And he's expressing the fact that there cannot be vices in that environment. So therefore, for vices to have, or something that is considered to be vice to manifest in the environment or in the spiritual realm, can only be attributed to the lila of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this cannot be speculatively or sentimentally or myopically described, because they have to be supported by the scriptures. So, but in the play of the Lord, this particular text we're reading today, we've seen the scenario of what has happened. And in this particular text, when the servant of the Lord, Jai and Vijay, had exhibited anger, stopping the four Kumaras, and drama has started. The Jai and Vijay has caused. The Lord had to appear. And here, this particular verse we're reading is talking about what is expected of a servant or a representative. And that's why we say that this verse is actually talking about the application of the teachings in the Krishna consciousness. So in this verse, we'll be understanding, based on Prabhupada's purport, as given in the analogy, the relationship, the mood, or the expected behavior from the servant to the master and master to the servant. And specifically, Prabhupada is emphasizing how a devotee of the Lord, a Vaishnava, one which can be described as a Vaishnava, protects the reputation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the focus of this text. In the purport, as given by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada explained that, therefore, a Vaishnava should be fully qualified. So in other words, when we see someone acting in a particular way that does not depict in 21st century, it is a fashion to simply call people man of God. It's a very, especially in African continent, people are very, very eager to be named man of God. Even in our Vaishnava community, when you call someone a bhakta, sometimes because of language barrier, they don't understand the meaning of that every word, bhakta. A bhakta means one who is a devotee. As used in this purpose, Prabhupada uses the word Vaishnava. Vaishnava is one who is a servant or devotee of Lord Vishnu. And one cannot be a Vaishnava, as Prabhupada purport here is emphasizing. One cannot be a Vaishnava if one is not fully qualified. So sometimes devotees ask questions like, so how do we identify a Vaishnava? Everyone in Krishna consciousness or in any spiritual tradition is called a devotee. So this verse is making us to understand who can be called a devotee. or who can be called a Vaishnava in the Krishna consciousness context. And Prabhupada is saying that on the level of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the person that can be called a Vaishnava, he must have developed the qualities of a Vaishnava that is manifested in the demigods. Srila Rupa Goswami, in his writing, has stated in the Nectar of Devotion that a devotee of the Lord is the manifestation of all of the demigods, because all of the qualities of the demigods are manifested in the personality of a devotee. And Srila Prabhupada enumerated that the qualities of a Vaishnava are not ambiguous. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, these 26 qualities of a Vaishnava are clearly stated, so that there is no ambiguities about who is a Vaishnava. So in other words, the moment we see someone behave in a particular way without having to reference or wait for confirmation from anyone, irrespective of the garment, the position, the identity that person might be claiming, if these qualities does not manifest in that person, we do not need a soothsayer to tell us if that person is a Vaishnava. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the 22nd chapter of the Madhya Lila, from text number 78 to 80, these qualities are enumerated. A Vaishnava, the first primary qualification of a Vaishnava is that is kind to everyone. When you see someone say, this person is my enemy, we have seen in our experience in trying to become a devotee, someone who is very, very considered to be highly elevated, sometimes back. And he said, you know, Salika, you are my enemy. And that day, as a human being, my respect for that person immediately drops. Because why? I could not have imagined that someone whom I consider to be so highly elevated like that could speak in such a manner. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that a Vaishnava, he does not see anyone as his enemy. He cannot consider anyone as an enemy. By nature, a Vaishnava is by quality truthful in all respects. Even if that person is to be killed, if there is a gun put to the person's head, he never relinquishes that quality of truthfulness. In Kali Yuga, it is said that of the 4 qualities of religion, the only leg remaining is that of truthfulness, but hardly you can see it. A Vaishnava, according to Lord Chaitanya, in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Charitamrita, it is said that a Vaishnava is equal to everyone. By nature, a Vaishnava is faultless, is magnanimous. By his disposition, is very mild. When you look at the appearance of a Vaishnava, he is always clean. When you look at someone who is to be called a Vaishnava, a Bhakta, this is very interesting. He has no possessions. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his teachings, he wrote, he said, my wife, my son, my family, my building, everything, they are yours, your Lord. Nothing is mine. But we see in our era, isn't it very absurd that someone is in the highest level of renunciation is having a bank account and is buying? I don't want to go into that mood. Qualities of a Vaishnava. He does not have his own possession. Srila Prabhupada was a perfect example of a Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada, to the last kobo, he will write. And when donation is given to Prabhupada, immediately he engages everything in the service of the Lord. A Vaishnava by nature, his disposition is that he works for the benefit of everyone. He is peaceful. Because of these qualities, you can see in his attitude is supremely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has no material desire. He is very meek. In everything he does, he is steady. He is not saying today something different and tomorrow is something different. He's not saying, because I was covered by anger, so I behave in that way. He's steady in all circumstances. He has a control of his senses. It's a perfect example of a Goswami. As Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, such a person, he does not eat too much, he does not eat too little. He does not sleep too much, he does not sleep little. The illusory energy of the Lord does not have. Lord Krishna said, Maya etam taranti te. In the Bhagavad Gita, such a person, because he is surrendered to Krishna, material energy, Maya Devi, becomes the servant of such a personality. The illusory energy of the Lord, the Maya, who is the controller of everybody, does not control the person who is a Vaishnava. Such a personality is above any fault. And even though he's such a very highly person, when in his disposition, in his relationship with everybody, he's always very respectful. He does not segregate who to give respect to. He respects everyone. But like Gurudev said, although he's very humble, but he's also bold. He has a grave nature. And he possesses the quality of a guru. He's a compassionate personality. He's friendly. And when he speaks poetically. Like Lord Brahma said in the Brahma Samhita, the residents of the Goloka Vrindavan, when they speak, when the Lord speaks, the song, the talking there is like a song. So when the Vaishnava is speaking, it's a reading to the ear to hear. He's expert in all places. Although he speaks so much, but is considered to be silent. And such a person, he manifests the first stanzas in the Shishastaka. Nadanam, Najanam, Na Sundarim. He manifests these qualities naturally. So therefore, in the text that we are reading today, is such a person, he it does not make mistakes that someone can point to, because it constantly, consciously remembers that is a representation of a personality that has no fault. Every of his behavior, he knows that whatever he does affects the fate of other persons. So he's conscious of his activity. So he's very careful. He is matured in whatever dealings he does. He is responsible. And therefore, he does not. Jai and Vijay, by nature, has no fault. But they exhibit this quality of seemingly disrespecting the fourth Kumaras because the Lord wanted to teach. He wants to give us the opportunity to understand what it means to be a representative of the Lord or to be called a devotee of the Lord. And the analogy of Srila Prabhupada, a spot of leprosy, it renders the whole body useless. When there is a pothole on our roads, in any city we live, when we speak, immediately we condemn the government. The government seemingly may not have been the one that created the spot on the road, but because it is expected that it is the responsibility of the government is blamed. So a devotee, he understands that whatever he does, because he wears the garment of a servant of the Lord, he conducts himself in a very unique way. He's very vigilant because he knows that in his word, in his actions, in his behavior, in his relationship, everything counts. So when a question is asked, who is a Vaishnava? It should not be difficult to understand because it is not a speculative question, because the answers are already evident in the scriptures. A Vaishnava, according to Srila Prabhupada, he must be blameless. He must have the quality of a trustworthiness. So when we say we are spiritualists, it means that this Krishna consciousness movement is not another kind of religion. Srila Prabhupada said, this is a transformative process. When one is said to be Krishna consciousness, his activities is transformatory, not only to himself, but to anyone around him. In describing who is a devotee, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the person, just by seeing him, inspires others to chant the holy name of the Lord. That person is a Vaishnava. And now let us look at our environment. Let us look around, and immediately we can see when the scripture says that when there is just two, even just one Vaishnava in any planet, the effect cannot be overemphasized. So when Srila Prabhupada was preaching, he said, this endeavor, all we are trying to do, we want to make one person, just one, a Vaishnava. So we get to the answers to our queries. When we look at our environment, we look at our country, our communities, and we see it is the absence of a Vaishnava. So it is not difficult. Somebody can claim to be the sannyasi, guru, Babaji, and many other names. One can claim to be anything. One can ascribe anything to himself or herself. But if he is sincere, this verse is telling him. Because wherever a Vaishnava is, let us imagine it. when the acharyas come, when Srila Prabhupada manifest in the West, there was a clear transformation. It is evidently manifest. It is not something that is expected to be speculated about. Everyone can see. Both kami, both devote, everyone can see the manifestation. So in our communities, when we look at the situations, then immediately the answer is there, whether we have a pure devotee in our midst or not. One bhakta asked a question one time. He said, why is it that when Srila Gurudev come around, everything's so nice, everywhere is effulgent, everybody is happy, but the moment the spiritual master leaves, then everything turns out to be something. That is the influence of a Vaishnava. Because by his presence, a Vaishnava transforms the environment where he is. So spiritual life is not just about talking. It's not how much someone talks. The moment someone talks, a Vaishnava, immediately he speaks to the heart of his listeners. So our endeavor in devotional service should center around how we are developing transformation in our life. It is not wrong that we have associated with material energy for so many lifetimes. If we want to see whether we are becoming a devotee, we should see three basic qualities. Whether we are developing the quality of humility, whether we are becoming patient, whether we are becoming truthful. If these three qualities, we cannot see it in our day-to-day life, then we should know we are not advancing in Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada explained, and Srila Prabhupada Goswami also emphasized that for these three qualities to develop in a person, he must have a steady sadhana. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned that one who has developed humility, you will see in him manifesting naturally the qualities of tolerance and respect to all living entities. A person who is clean by nature, truthfulness, mercy will manifest in his disposition. And such a person, without being requested, the moment he appears, the chanting of the holy name manifests from the heart naturally. When Srila Prabhupada get to Tompkins Square, Srila Prabhupada was not asking anybody to come and chant. He just sat down and he just started chanting. And because of his purity, because he's a perfect Vaishnava, everyone started around him. Whoever is within that vicinity, the trees, the leaves, the branches of the trees, the living entities who are around, everyone started chanting the holy name of the Lord. So if we want to be identified as a Vaishnava, we should understand that it's a high elevated position because it means that one is a direct representative of the Lord. So in the activity of Jaya and Vijaya, although they are transcendentally situated, but for the purpose of lesson, they have acted in a particular way. But here the lesson is that one should understand that one's offenses, either to another devotee or to the demigod or to any personality, is a scar on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one must understand that the moment he wears a Vaishnava tilak, he wears Kanti Mala, he wears it's just like one time, in recent time, there was a trending picture of a policeman wearing Nigerian police uniform. And he was completely drunk. Misbehaving like anything. And when that picture was trending, when you look at the comments that followed, 9 out of 10 of those who are commenting were sending the blame to the government. That for them to have recruited such a nuisance, it means that the government himself must be nuisance. So this text that we're reading today is teaching us that by all means, if we want to be called a Vaishnava, seen as a Vaishnava, then we must by all means avoid offenses against not even the ants, not to talk of elderly human beings, not to talk of a Vaishnava or a devotee of the Lord. Sometimes a devotee falls down due to past misdeeds. But one who is a Vaishnava is quickly rectifying himself, understanding that he holds a high-level position of representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the verse is telling us that in all means, yes, we are Sadakas, we have been born into this ocean of illusion, but we should be consciously seeking to avoid offenses in all regions. Jahan Vijay offended the four Kumaras and they were cursed. Even though that was the play of the Lord. But this story is teaching us that in all, we must try in our endeavor to avoid unnecessary criticisms, sarcasms, offending Vaishnava. A Vaishnava serves the Lord and his every living entity with gratitude. A devotee does not compete with any other person. He competes with himself, how best is developing the quality of a Vaishnava. When someone is wrong, immediately accept, oh, I'm actually at fault. In other words, a devotee or one who is aspiring to be a devotee, even when he has the lower qualities, he admits and he understands that his situation. And such a person, Lord Krishna says, I sitting in the region of the earth. Tesham Ivanu Kampantam Aham Agyanam Jantama. Nasaya me Atma Bhavasto, Gyana Deepina Basuta. He said, because I'm sitting in the region of the earth and I'm seeing the sincerity of that person, wanting to drop all of these qualities of offenses, immediately it will come. And that is what is manifested in the activities of Jaya and Vijay. They were not intending to offend. They were carrying out their duties. And because they are sincere servants of the Lord comes. So the verse, in essence, is teaching us that a devotee is mindful in his speech, in his actions. Is especially careful when he's in the public because he knows that any of his activities will be attributed, just like Prabhupada gave an analogy, becomes like a spot, a black spot on a white plain cloth or leprosy in a spot of the body. So we must constantly question ourselves. How does my Krishna consciousness behavior seen by others? What Vaishnava etiquette or qualities have I developed since my 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 6 months in devotion and service? And where I've made offenses, maybe unknowingly due to bad nature of previous inclinations, how quickly have I admitted that I'm wrong? So the story of Jaya and Vijay, in the context of the verse that we're reading this evening, is teaching us that a Vaishnava must strive to be blameless and qualified because his conduct reflects on the Supreme Lord. He understands that even though he is born into the delusion of material existence, he must constantly endeavor to increase his Vaishnava qualities through sincere sadhana and careful dealings with devotees. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has given a very simple way to achieve this. In this age, we do not have to go into meditation. We don't have to do so many things. We simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And for one who constantly, sincerely chant like this, that verse becomes applicable to him. Krishna, who is seated in the region of the earth, Krishna says he will destroy the darkness, the ignorance in the earth, which is born out of darkness, of ignorance. So it is not very difficult to become a Vaishnava. All it requires is for one to develop sincerity of purpose. And when one develops this sincere mood of constantly always wanting to be a Vaishnava in all ramifications, the Lord sees his or her sincerity, and the Lord comes in between, just like the Lord manifested and come for Jaya and Vijay. It fulfills the promise of the Lord. My devotees will never be vanquished. Our endeavor to serve the Lord is the qualification that we need to become a perfect Vaishnava. And when we develop this mood, then devotional service becomes an easy plaything. Most importantly, we should constantly, consciously, always remember that whatever we do, whatever we say, goes back to making people glorify or blaspheme the Supreme Lord. And depending on whichever of the divide we are, we'll get reactions that is commensurate to our situation. So this is the sum and total of what this verse today is talking about from my realization. And at this point, I would like to stop so that we can discuss and get questions, comments, contributions, corrections, and filling the gaps of omission if there are any. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, SALIKA Prabhu. Of course, as always, stepping in and rendering the service so beautifully. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question. Hare Krishna. Well, Prabhuji, thank you. I don't remember whether it was I don't recall, but someone once asked me if a devotee gets into trouble, whether the authorities should step in to help protect the devotees. I don't remember exactly, but it's along that line. Here we are seeing, by example, Krishna is saying that because whatever happens to his devotee affects him, he tries to make sure that when the devotee is in trouble, he himself goes in there to save the situation. Now, I am trying to be a devotee. And let's say I live in the ashram. I don't do anything else. I live in the ashram. And all I do is try my best to serve the Lord according to the guidelines by my authority. And if I go out there to preach and I get myself in trouble, what should be the expectation of me from my authorities? In the text, it says that these devotees are top-notch devotees. They have all the 26 qualities. I may not have maybe one of the qualities, but I'm trying my best. And I get myself in trouble in the course of rendering my service. What should be the response of my supposed leader? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Sadiku. This is exactly the crux of the matter that we're discussing. Who is a leader? Because somebody is given the position of a temple president or regional secretary or national council chairman, or he has been awarded the position of a sannyasi or a guru or whatever, does that make that person a leader? No. That is what this text is telling us. A leader, a real leader, is one who is compassionate. Narad Muni not only relate with devotees, both demons, devotees, everyone is equal to everybody. And because he was equal to everyone, he was able to show compassion to everyone. There are so many great Vaishnava devotees. When you look at the life of Ambarish Maharaj, Kapila Muni, when you look at Haridas Thakur, even the Sanat, the Kumaras that we are discussing their story, when they were offended, they were causing Jaya and Vijay with a conscious nature to revive them. So the first thing that comes in the mind of one who is a true leader is that he is compassionate. He wants to help the victim. So externally, we give the identity, the ornament of a leader to people based on name. But that is what this verse is talking about. One is not a leader who does not have the qualification of these Vaishnava qualities. For the purpose of management and the missionary activities, people are given different roles. But how they relate in relationship to any circumstances, what differentiates them from a leader or a ladder, or like Prabhupada would say, a foolish person. Because he who thinks himself to be a leader is actually not a leader. One who is a true leader sees himself as a servant of those whom he is being given to lead. So a temple president, a commander, a whatever name, disposition, or title that is given to somebody does not justify that person. And we should be aware of this, that although we have these different names, titles given to people, we should not be misguided or confused by the name. A person is known only according to Vaishnava standard by his behaviors. If he does not exhibit the quality of a Vaishnava, he may be weary. And that Englishman says, the robe does not make a monk. How a person relates to someone when it's wrong shows his qualification as a leader a foolish person. So as a simple devotee, or as one who is serving under the person, when someone makes the mistake, there was a scenario that happened recently. I don't want to say because it's very fresh. Maybe I should not give that story. And then when the person told me, the person I asked him a question. I said, do you mean that this is going on? He said, yes. And I asked, and I called few names. I said, is this person around? He said, yes. Is this person around? He said, yes. Is that person around? He said, yes. And I said, what? And that devotee was telling me, he said, Prabhu, why is it that it's only you that is speaking like this? I said, because I'm not speaking for myself. Although I'm not a pure devotee, but I'm trying to be a devotee. So one who is actually put in the position of a leader, who is trying to be a devotee, even when he's not qualified, he tries. And that is what Lord Krishna told Arjuna. Because he's endeavoring, Krishna says, I will come through. Krishna will be his mouth. Krishna will be his activity. Krishna will be everything for him. When he acts, when he speaks, himself will be marveled. How do I come with this kind of statements? And some of us must have experienced that sometimes, that somebody comes to us, we're trying to preach, and is asking us something we never thought about before. And after speaking to the person is completely brought off by what we say. And we start wondering, how did I come up with this? We didn't think about it in the past. That is what Krishna's promised. He will come true because he's seated in the region of the heart. So a leader is not a person who is made a temple president or who has the title of a commander or whatever title that person, or guru or sannyasi or whatever name. All of these are titles. Requalification of a guru or a sannyasi are described in the scriptures. And that is the essence, that is the core essence of the teachings of the verse that we're reading today. That Jai and Vijay, their behavior from the material point of assessment is demeaning, because if the Lord says my abode is perfect, and then somebody is acting imperfectly in the abode of a perfect personality, it means that it puts in a question mark on that. And that's why I started the discussion where I was explaining that previous devotees have discussed that, and I don't want to dwell too much on that, that the difference between the lila of the Lord and the activities of in the material world are completely different. The Lord enacted these pastimes to teach us lessons. Jaya and Vijay were not bewildered. They knew who the four Kumaras were, but to fulfill the desire of the Lord, they were like Krishna himself said in Bhagavad Gita, he said, those who are my pure devotee and are under my superior energy. They're not under the influence of Maya. Their activities are directed by me directly. Those who are in the material world, in the delusion of material existence, they are all under the influence of and control of Devi. And Krishna says, no one can surmount it. Devi Mama Maya Durati. You cannot. By my grace only, you can surmount it. So that person is a leader if he acts in accordance with the injunctions of the scriptures compassionately, truthfully, mercifully. And if that person acts otherwise, there is no two ways to understand it. It means that person is not a leader, although he has been put in the position of a leader. And then also, for a point of reference, you cannot blame that somebody is given the position of leadership. Like Gurudev explained, like Krishna Prabhupada explained, that sometimes in Krishna consciousness, we should understand that our position, being given the role of a bhakta or initiated devotee, is like giving somebody a double promotion. Someone coming from the primary education and is admitted into the university. He said that is what Krishna consciousness is like. We have no qualification, but by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have been given this Krishna consciousness. Now, it depends on us how we now manage the advances. The gift is equal to everyone, but the choices is independent to individuals. The intentions cannot be condemned because the Lord's intention, the Guru's intentions for giving the position was to allow the soul who is downtrodden, who is conditioned to be able to elevate himself. When the spiritual master was giving initiation as a Brahmin, when he was explaining to us is that now you are a Brahmana, but do not be misguided that you have become a Brahmana. We are giving you this thread. We are giving you this title of a Brahmin so that you can develop these qualities that is enumerated in the scriptures. So if someone is given the position of a temple president, a temple commander, national council chair, or whatever position, a sannyasi, a guru, or whatever position is given, and if he does not act in accordance with the qualities that is enumerated, that is stated in the scriptures of such a person, he should understand that it's a failure. And that is not the fault of the person that has given him that position.
Well,
I hope that helps him.
Yes, thank you so much for the response. I wish that all devotees would get together and discuss this particular verse and see how we can help ourselves and each other to try to remain devotees. But the question I have after your beautiful response is that two wrongs do not make a right. So let's assume that is not the case of the pastime we are studying, but let's assume that it did happen in the other way around. That is, the devotees offended the great sages, and the Supreme Lord did not intervene. What would have been the reaction of the devotees of the Lord? In other words, if I'm trying to be a devotee and I get myself in trouble, I might expect my leader to show some responsibility, some sort of care. If that does not happen, what should be my reaction?
Okay,
because we live in this material world and we are conditioned so we may not be as effective as the Supreme Lord is in this particular Leela. But what should be the reaction of that devotee who is trying his best, got himself in trouble in the course of his service, and his leader authority did not come to his aid? What should he do?
Thank you very much. That's a beautiful question, Prabhu, for you. Very retrospective questions. Let us remember what Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. There was never a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor all of these people. So there is never going to be a time that Krishna will not be present. We may not have the qualification to see Krishna coming, but Krishna will always, because that is what Krishna has promised. And Krishna is not a politician that will make a statement and not make it come to pass. Each and every time that someone has failed us, in 1995, something happened to me. And this is a practical experience. And some of my leaders made some, actually impersonating the spiritual master, said some things. And when Slakishnapad came, I would never forget. And he said, he sat on the verse and he said, your temple president might fail you. Your temple guru might disappoint you. Your temple commander might lie to you. He said, but Krishna will never fail you. I will never forget that lecture. Krishna will never at any time fail any person. How he will manifest is what will be different. And it takes the sincerity of the victim to know that Krishna is coming. Because in most often times, we ourselves are not qualified. And that is what this verse is talking about. The qualification is not one way. The Lord is always present, but whether we are qualified to be called a Vaishnava, a devotee, a sadhaka, is what is different. It is not a fault that we are not a pure Vaishnava. We can be a sadhaka, a practicing devotee. That is not the fault. But the fault is in whether we are being sincere with our position. Because at each and every other time that we are in situations, Krishna is always coming. This reminds me of a very favorite story in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Puranas, of a Brahmana. A Brahmana, he says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:22, that for those who are exclusively devoted to me, I protect what they lack. I provide what they lack. I provide for what they have. And this Brahmana said, no, Krishna, you must be saying something. I believe you, Krishna, you are who you are. I believe everything you said in the Gita, but there's this one verse I cannot believe. Because I don't see you practically making this happen. Because I don't see you every other time. Every other thing you said is true, but this one, I can't believe it. And because he was such an elevated Brahmana, and Krishna is always the friend of the Brahmanas. So Krishna came to him and said, my dear Brahmana, how can you say, I've been blessed by my guru, that whatever I say off my mouth will not come to failure. It shall always come to pass. So whatever I've said, there is nothing like fault in it. And he said, okay, Krishna, you have to prove it to me. Because this one, I need to be convinced. Other ones, I can believe. And Krishna said, okay. And this Brahmana, every day, because he's a very poor Brahmana, he has only 2 kupin and his kamadelu and his stick. So whenever he goes in the morning to the river side to take his morning oblation and then make prayers, he will wash his kupin and spread it and go into the water. And he will stay in the water until when the kupin is dried, then he will come out and tie it. He was so poor to that extent. So this particular day, Krishna wanted to show him that he's always there. The story goes that this Brahman at this particular day, the gundas, the decoys were passing, and they saw the kupin of this Brahmana. He has no property, he has nothing. This is all his property he has. And they pick it up, whether to use it to tie something or whatever it is that they carried it for. And when the Brahmana looked back, he saw them holding his kupin and they were running, they were going. He shouted, oh, thief, 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 why have you carried? This is the only thing I have. I don't have anything. And he remembered the conversation he had with Krishna the previous day. This is what I'm saying. Krishna says he will always come to protect what I have and provide for what I like. Now, the only thing I have, they are taking away and Krishna is not taking it. And he started running, he ran out of the water and he was running after the thieves. But meanwhile, Krishna was already coming to come and retrieve his kupin for him. But when he started running after Krishna has to stay back. And Krishna was watching how the drama that is following. And he ran to them. And the story goes that when he got to the thieves, they told him, hey, poor Brahmana, go back, or else we'll kill you here. He refused to listen. And with his tiny bone, he tried to eat one of them, and his hand got broken. And in that situation, he started lamenting. The thieves, they left. And Krishna appeared to him. He said, see, you always come at the wrong time, just like Nigerian policeman. You come after the event has happened. See, they have taken my equipment away, and I was calling for you. You didn't come and take me. Krishna said, but I was coming to help you. But you started defending yourself. So how can I do? Because you're not surrendered enough. One of the qualities of the Vaishnava enumerated in 26 qualities of Vaishnava is that a devotee, a Vaishnava, is always completely surrendered to Krishna. We see that also in the story of
Draupadi.
Draupadi. In the story of Draupadi, Draupadi was holding to her sari. She completely holding to her sari. She was struggling. But when he finally realizes, when she becomes surrendered in her mind and consciousness, hey, Krishna, and Krishna came. And there are many, many stories like that. Dhruva Maharaj, when he was insulted.
Sakshi Gopal.
Sakshi Gopal. Many, there are so many. We can continuously count. The moment one develops the quality of surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna always comes. So, to summarize, to your question, what should we do? We should increase the level of our surrender to Krishna. I have personally experienced it many times. In my little experience in devotional life, there are several times that Krishna has manifested himself. Although I could not see him in his two-handed form of Shamashundra, but he has always manifested through someone. The Sarastra, when he was to be destroyed, he had Krishna manifesting in Vidura, but he never listened. So our problems is that when Krishna comes, when Krishna incarnates, it doesn't necessarily incarnate every other time. He will incarnate, he will manifest according to the level of our consciousness. To prayer devotees like Prabhupada, Krishna will come physically and talk to him one-on-one. But because we are not purified to that level, Krishna will come. Sometimes he will send his representatives. And because we cannot identify Krishna in those persons, because we ourselves are not sincere enough, so we don't see Krishna coming. So what we should do is that we should wait, look around for Krishna's presence when we find ourselves in those situations where we are in a helpless situation. We do not know what to do, and we have nothing capacity to solve the problem. We should look around. And if we attentively look around, which is one of the qualities of a Vaishnava, if we attentively look around us, we will see Krishna manifesting. He is always there. There's never a time Krishna is not there.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you. I mean, this text is very encouraging.
Yeah, very powerful text.
That one tries to have Krishna as his friend. The problem is becoming a real Vaishnava, because Srila Prabhupada made a reference. Let me see, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada made a reference to, excuse me, to Srimad Bhagavatam. Sorry, what am I doing? This is the text. And in the opening purport, Srila Prabhupada said that, as stated in the Bhagavatam, anyone who has become a Vaishnava has developed all the good qualities of the demigods. Now, that is Srimad Bhagavatam 5:8-12. 5:18, where it says, all the demigods and their...
Yeah, very nice one. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculation, just like the Brahmana, and must engage in the service of the Lord, external energy. How can there be any good quality in such a person?
Yeah.
This is a very nice verse. When we look at this, remember powerful sage like Dhruva Samuni, He has to be running up and down after offending Ambarish Maharaj.
Yeah.
So Divasamuni, so such a powerful personality. But the Vaishnava, all the qualities, as young as Prahlad, there are so many references, devotees who have exhibited these qualities in the scriptural references, even in our present times. When you look at His Holiness Radhanath Swami,
Salika, you got muted. I don't know what happened.
I'm still talking.
Okay, yeah, okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah. When you look at, we have, even in our modern times, we have so many gurus and sannyasis who have several accounts. Does anyone here can tell me he knows the account of Radhanath Swami in his personal name? Can anybody say? He has no personal account. There's so many of the sannyasis who has their own personal properties in Mayapur, in Vrindavan, in their name. We're not talking of those who have passed. We're talking of present. So these qualities of Vaishnava are not something ambiguous to see. When we look around, those who are becoming Vaishnavas, you see their qualities in them. The first symptom of person who is a conditioned person is that he is me, my. And all of those who claim to be very highly elevated person, you see them.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you. Does anyone else have something to ask or to share before we bring this to a close? Well, as always, Prabhuji, thank you so much for stepping in. Salika Prabhu. I think we have Amsadita Prabhu stand up. Please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, your grace. Please can you accept my special obeisances? All glory to Jaga Guru Sri Prabhupada and all glory to the wonderful assembled devotees. Thank you for the wonderful class.
Thank you so much,
Prabhu. Your grace, there's something which is bothering me, and I'm going to cause a little bit of offense, but please forgive me, because I just want to use you for an instance. That's why I'm saying that.
Okay.
So, for instance, we those who come from Muslim backgrounds, we have a lot of challenges when we come to Krishna consciousness. Always we have to defend Krishna consciousness, because all the time the question will come, why do you follow these people? Why do you follow these people? This and that. They are idol worshippers, and every time you have to explain or you have to defend it. Oh, it's not like that. And one way or another, you can use people to make an example. Oh, look at these people. He's Hare Krishna. Look at his life, this and that and that. And for instance, maybe I use you for example. And along the line, you're beginning to say things which is against devotional life, which is not good for Krishna consciousness. And these things become public. Because already I've used you for example. And at the same time, if this comes to people's notice and they question you, you said these people are not like this, but this person, you use him for example, this is what he's saying, and this is what he's doing. it come to the point that you're left in the middle, either to say different kind of things, and it becomes so difficult because the thing is clear like water. It's not something which you can polish it or you can say in it other way because it's there. And for example, devotees, we don't. One of our basic principle, the 4 principle, is one of them is gambling and not to drink alcohol. So if Your Grace, I hear you say, oh, this and that, you can use it to make alcoholic beverage. In public, everybody heard that. How can I defend this to my Muslim people or whatsoever? If I say, oh, our Christian people, even our principle is, one of our principle is against alcohol intoxication. Oh, this activities coming on and this and that is good to win. So you can use it to make gambling on my bet, which is against our principle. How am I going to defend this without commenting offense to the person? Because it is something which me particularly, it become disturbed to my mind because I'm a neophyte and I'm not advanced. And at the same time, like you said, Krishna is always there. And it is said that if you are a neophyte and you are not careful or you say something which is not suit well to advanced devotee, they can crush you. So I ask myself, how can you discuss this? Because there's no way you can defend this statements. There's no way you can defend it. You have to say it as it is because it is even in our principles. So how can, for instance, how can I defend you or explain this without committing offense to you? And even if I say it out, it is, oh, this is not Krishna consciousness. What this person is saying is not the life of a devotee. That means I'm also committing offense to the person. So how, in this situation, how do I go about it? This is my humble question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Amsadita Prabhu. I knew you were trying to avoid not mentioning names. So you're going round and round and round. But I think I can understand where you're coming from because I also was very consciously avoiding not to go directly to naming people while I was speaking. Because this verse actually, if we want to speak to this verse in the context of environment where I live, especially West Africa, so many persons will take offenses. Because why? There are so many persons who are supposedly, quote and unquote, leaders who have behaved below the qualification of a leader. And they have become a blemish. They have become like leprosy on the body of the Krishna consciousness movement in this region. I was discussing with one of our senior managers yesterday, and I was sharing with him that how is it possible that we'll be comfortable sitting to be called a leader, and under our watch, certain things are going on. To call a spade is never an offense.
Okay.
To call a thief is not an offense. And when I was speaking, yes, I mentioned that one should be cautious in trying to criticize person. To tell what is the truth does not indicate that someone is criticizing or making offenses. There are so many, especially in our environment, now that have become a leprosy on the body, healthy body of Krishna consciousness in this yatra. And they need to be removed quickly before they destroy the whole body. And that's part of what I was discussing with one of the leaders yesterday. That it, as a matter of urgency, if they are to be called that name, something has to be done. Because why? Just like the bad activity of a servant is blamed on the person of the Supreme Personality of God. In the same way, all of these people, even if they claim that I'm not doing this thing, they are to be blamed because they are occupying the position that puts them in the leadership of these persons. So, Amsadutta Prabhu, there is no offense when you find yourself where you have to speak and you speak about the truth. There is nothing offensive inside of that. To call a nonsense person a nonsense is never an offense. As a Vaishnava, we may say it in a very mild way, not wanting to kill or destroy the person, but in the mood of a compassionate Vaishnava to correct the person. But it is never a wrong thing to call a thief a thief. So when we look around to speak directly to a question, if I have introduced Sahadev as my temple president to a new person or to somebody else, and Sahadev started behaving in a manner that does not represent the values, tenets, and teachings of what I presented him to, it will not be a wrong thing for me to tell the same person that that person was given the opportunity to be in that position, but Sahadev has become a nonsense. So therefore, he's not to be considered my leader because it does not represent what is being given unto him. The only person is a guru. And there are no shortcuts. Bali Maharaj, he rejected his guru. Why? Because the guru behaved in such a manner that does not represent who is supposed to be called a guru. Because a bona fide guru, his duty is to guide every person to God. And when his guru told him to deny God, Bali Maharaj rejected him immediately. And Bali Maharaj, for that rejecting his guru, become glorious today. And not only become glorious, the Lord accepted to be a servant at his gate. So to reject a nonsense for being a nonsense does not make you an offender. Or to speak to a person's misbehavior when there is a need for clarification, that can never be considered offensive. And I see a lot in our yatra that are behaving below the standard of what Srila Prabhupada gave. And so if such a person is called a name that befits the person, that person is not being offended. And you who have called the person spade a spade has not in any way commit any offense. But Vaishnava etiquette must supersede. One should speak the truth, even the bitter truth, in a polite manner. I don't know whether that touches what you want.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. And to be honest, I have this challenge because of where I come from. It's always I have to my devotional service. I have to say one thing or another to make it look like I'm not a devotee. I'm just learning from my Krishna, but I've initiated because not to avoid family conflict, and at the same time the family blaspheme Krishna because I know the consequences when they blaspheme Krishna. And all the time it's like you have to defend and defend and defend and defend. And at the same time, people are also saying all sorts of things which make you look like even where you belong to, you don't know what you are doing. So thank you so much for that.
Because those people, they see those who you claim to be your contemporaries or associates or the members where you belong to are doing things in such a way that it is opposite of what you are trying to do. I get a lot of banishing like that in my family also. They will tell me, why is your own Krishna consciousness like this? And they mentioned to me, I'll tell you one short story. There was one devotee, he left the movement. He was in the temple. We were in the temple in Lagos, in Mafoluku temple, in those early days. And he left the temple. He went to somewhere in Agege in Lagos. He was staying there. And he was smoking ganja. And because he has been a devotee, so he kept some sika, even though his sika was removed when he was leaving the temple, but when he went out, he kept some little sika. And why did he do that? To threaten the neighbors. In fact, he was not paying the landlord. And when the landlord wants to come and ask him for money, he will say, I will give you at my time. If you disturb me, I will curse you. So they were afraid of him until when my junior brother, my biological junior brother, went to go and rent a house in that place. So one day, somehow the other situation joined them together. So that was the day he had to run out of that house. So my brother said, what is wrong with you? You're a crazy person. I'm smoking ganja. You're smoking ganja. You're telling me you're Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna people don't smoke ganja. My brother is Hare Krishna. He doesn't smoke ganja. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do this. He doesn't drink alcohol. You are a fake Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna doesn't know you. Even if you have been there before, you are not a member of Hare Krishna. And he shouted on him. And he fought with my junior brother that day. And at the end of the day, he was exposed. And that was the day the landlord took boldness and sent him out. And he had to run away for his life because everybody was ready to leave because he has been tormenting them in the house for so long. So I understand where you're talking from. So there are so many imposters in the name of Krishna consciousness movement. But that should not deter you, because the fact is that because there are so many nonsense in the name of Krishna consciousness, that does not defeat the intent of Krishna consciousness. So if someone tells me like that, what most often time I tell them, I say that, have you at any time read any of the Krishna consciousness book? Have you studied the life and times of Srila Prabhupada? Does his life reflect what you are saying? If no is the answer. If the book says no, and if my life says no, then you have nothing to say to me. But if my life does not really match what is in the book and what the founder of the movement says, then you cannot condemn me. So when your family members or whoever they are tells you, oh, you are wasting your time, or you are just a nonsense, or because you look at those who are your member, you let them know they are not a member is not identified by persons who are wearing garments of Hare Krishna or living even in the temple of Hare Krishna. Because in Bhagavad Gita purport, chapter 18, which the Prabhupada has already emphasized, he has explained it that in Kali Yuga, we will see some people will even come to the movement. They will grow in the movement. They will follow all the regulative things. They even take a powerful position in the movement just to destroy the image of the movement. So, and that is happening. It's not something new. And Srila Prabhupada knew this. Acharya know this. So it is written in our scriptures. So people like that, they will come. In the previous time, demons were so powerful. They could be self-effulgent demons, like in Kashipu, Kamsa, and all of that. But in this age, there are tiny demons. They're not qualified demons. And because they're not demons, they're just descendants of the demons. So they have no capacity. So therefore, they hide under the pious people's garment to be. They claim to be God,
Thank
but
you.
they are dogs.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you. You have really answered my question. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Madhuma Prabhu, do you still have something to ask or to say?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just briefly, what else I want to say is that there's a saying that they say, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Absolutely.
So inside this purport, I think it's the third
paragraph.
Okay, yes, the third paragraph or sentence.
Sentence, okay.
Yes. Where it's stated that a devotee should always see that his Vaishnava qualities increase with the advancement of his Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
So it happens that we have even some devotees who have been in the movement for even more than 30 years, and they are found wanting. So it's really very, very embarrassing. And in my own situation, I have to expel somebody, even though he has stayed so long, because it wasn't this quality. In fact, it was exhibiting demonic quality. And in Christian consciousness, it's supposed to be the postgraduate. People expect so much from us because the moment they know that we are not eating meat, we are not doing this or that, they expect so much, and they even know our principles. So anytime we transgress or cross the line, it's really embarrassing. It's about 2 or 3 times that even I have to be apologizing to our immediate community in the temple when the devotee misbehaves. And I'm assuring the community, the people outside, that don't worry, I'll get this person punished. I must get this person punished. So in our movement, even though we admit people freely, we have to do a lot of filtering. We have to purge the system and filter. Even though our admission is free, but this thing is very, very important because we should never allow anything to tarnish our image. Our image is so precious. So, and like Amsa Dutta Prabhu was saying, we all experience the same thing. When our image is tarnished. So we should be more conscious. And anytime we see any unbecoming activity, we should not be quiet. We should react and make sure that the situation is rectified before it is becoming known to the community or to the outside people. So that's just what I want to say. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madhuma Prabhu, for the contribution. You're very right. And I'm happy you said you take care of the person. Whoever is that, if we are in the position of leadership, somebody is misrepresenting what we stand for, that person should be excommunicated. If he lives in the temple, if he's not even living in the temple, the disclaimer should be in the corporate word, like Kangi Prashad said the other day. What you do is write a disclaimer that this person, I'm so and so person, by whose so name, used to be a part and parcel of this, but are no longer part of us. And they do whatever they do not represent anybody who deals with them at their own risk. So even when they have joined the movement or people have known them with the organization, we should make a disclaimer. But that is what is expected. And if we fail to do that, that means also we become nonsense like them. Because that is the responsibility. Srila Prabhupada will not tolerate such a nonsense. So we should not tolerate it. I told a story one time here on this platform. One time we have an initiation in Benin. That was in 1990, around mid-90s. And one devotee, he has been in the temple, he has taken first initiation. And that day he took second initiation. And immediately he took second initiation, he was so crazy that he thought he had achieved everything because they gave him second initiation, and he went into the bar joint and he drank in steps to the stupor and misbehaving up and down. And he came from Benin, he came to Lagos. And Lakshmi had said, what's her name now? I remember this mother's name. Mother, what is her name now? Her name came to my head now. Kishnapa told the fat one. No, not Imabati. What's her name? The fat mother, Madhurya Lila. Kishnapa told Madhurya Lila, he said, capture him, don't let him escape. Take him to the bedroom, and he shaved him. He removed his key card, removed the neck bead. And Lakshman sat on the verse, and after that day, he gave a lecture. He said, guru-disciple relationship is a contract. And when the contract is betrayed by one party, the contract should be discontinued. It's no longer a Vaishnava, so it should not be addressed as such. So when we see such nonsense, we should correct it immediately if we're in position of leadership. And if we're not in the leadership position, we should complain to those who are leadership. And if they fail to do anything, then the karma, the curse will be on their head. Because that is why they are called a leader. But if we're in the leadership position, the position of taking decision, immediately we should not raise, and that's why I'm happy that you said you take a decision on that. And I didn't need that PRABHU.
Krishna Prabhu, accept my humble obeisances and all glories to assemble the devotees. And thank you once again for stepping in.
Thank you very much, PRABHU.
Yes. So, Prabhu, what do you make of we don't criticize a leader, because if in case you were given that position, you would do worse than such a person. And also, how can you marry this very text we are treating today to the text in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita that says even if the person commits the most abominable sin and he still sits on the seat of transit, then it should be considered saintly. How do you marry this text and the other one? So my question is like, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you very much. I addressed that in the course of the lecture, and then I'll repeat that. If someone is sincere, if he repents quickly and rectifies sincerely, such a person is what that verse in the Bhagavad Gita is referring to. Someone due to past karma or past misgivings find himself doing things wrongly, unintentionally, due to force of nature, due to his past karma, he does something. Such a person, naturally, without anybody even talking to the person, he will quickly repent. He will rectify himself and sincerely apologize, even when nobody sees him. Not even when to talk of somebody else seeing him. Even when nobody has seen it, nobody has seen that he has eaten meat, or he has committed illicit, or he has gambled, or he has done anything against the principles. Even when nobody has seen him, not to talk of when somebody has seen him. So that's what I mentioned here. One must avoid Vaishnava apparat, but that does not mean that when someone is misbehaving, the solution is that if we are on the same platform or the same level with that person, we can advise the person to stop these wrongdoings. If the person is below us, we correct the person. And if the person is above us, we humbly, with straw in our mouth, go to that person and tell him, my Prabhu, this is going under your watch. It is wrong. Convince me that what this person is doing right. And if the person cannot agree to or say to you that what that person is doing is right thing, then tell the person, Prabhu, this is completely wrong and it needs to be corrected. So if that person does not correct it, because you have done your own duty of pointing it out, you have not committed an apparat. Rather, that person who does not take the action will carry the karma of not doing those things. So when the verse Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 is talking about he quickly becomes a saintly person, he's talking of that person who commits sinful activities. Even before somebody else corrects him, he's already correcting himself quickly. He's rectifying his mistakes and he's sincerely trying to atone for his wrongdoings. That is the person that verse is talking to, not somebody who is consistently engaging in sinful activities that to the extent that somebody else come and see it. And even when somebody see it, somebody is telling him, he's still showing a strong head. He's showing that he's a big man. That person is nonsense. And when you call such a nonsense, you're not committing any apparat. But then, in fashionable etiquette, you have to look at your status. If somebody is superior to you, humbly go towards the person if it's favorable. If it's not that favorable person, look for someone who is favorable, who is a contemporary of that person. Go to that person and tell the person, Prabhu, with all humility, I cannot approach this Prabhu, but what he's doing is completely wrong, and you know it. This is what he's doing. Please, kindly intercede. That's what you do.
Hare Krishna.
What of we don't criticize the leader? If you were given such a position, you may do worse than such a person. What do you have to say to that also?
Salika, we cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you.
Salika is fired up today.
Salika, Hare Krishna. Oh, he cannot hear us. I think it's from...
But we should do it in the quality of a Vaishnava.
All right, we can hear you now. We lost him. I realized his internet was fluctuating. Okay, it's back.
Hare Krishna, sorry, I think something happened. I don't know what it is.
Yes.
And we lost you.
Yeah, you may go ahead. We can hear you now.
Yeah, so I'm saying that there is nothing like don't criticize. We criticize constructively. And we have a perfect example. There are many other examples. I'm just giving one. Prahlad Maharaj, he criticized his father, but in a constructive manner. I've talked about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So many criticisms are there, and we cannot say we will not criticize. Why would we see nonsense going on and we keep silent? And that is why it is said that a Vaishnava, even if he's a Maya Bhagavat, he comes down to the platform of a Madhyama so that he can preach. And we are a preaching mission. We are descendant of Brahma, Gaudiya, Vaishnava, Sampradaya. Our duty, we are a preaching mission. And as a preacher, why will you not criticize? We will criticize. Srila Prabhupada said, we will criticize. There was an interview, I can't tell exactly the reference now, but it is then in Srila Prabhupada, one of Srila Prabhupada's interview. He said, who said we will criticize? Who said we should not criticize? We will criticize. If the person is doing nonsense, but we criticize in the manner depicting our personality as a Vaishnava. And that was why I told you that when you look something wrong going on, you cannot say because this thing is going wrong and you are just a bacter. Yesterday, you don't understand anything because also you could be making mistakes. You go to somebody who is superior and point out the mistakes you are seeing. And if the person is obviously, a person is said to be a temple president and I'm a bacter in the temple, and the person is sneaking to go into the mother's ashram, or is carrying cigarette in his mouth, is smoking, and I will say, I will tell him, Prabhu, you are doing something wrong. And if he's so senior that I cannot approach him and tell him, I tell somebody who is his contemporary, and if they both join together, did not do anything about it, they carry the karma on their head.
Well, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I think one other thing, Anadinidana Prabhu was trying to get an answer to is that sometimes some devotees would say that don't say anything about the so-called inappropriate behavior of the leader, because if you were put in that position, you will even be doing worse. That is the excuse. That is the excuse some people. So he wants to find out what should we do in that
That person that is saying like that is not a Vaishnava. That is what this text is talking about. He's not a Vaishnava. A person who sees the wrong thing and said it should not be pointed out himself is not a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava does not look away. He does not look away from the wrongs that is happening in his presence. That's why I paraphrase. I didn't want to because of the timing. When you look at the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, one of the qualities directly speaks to this point that you are talking about. In the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, he works for the benefit of everyone, but he is truthful. How can somebody be truthful when he condones untruthfulness? So it's someone is saying we should not condemn somebody because the person we should not criticize because if they put us, I may not be qualified. Yes, I admit. And that is why we say that some may not be qualified, but he is struggling.
Muted. We cannot hear you, Salika Prabhu. No.
Where you not hear you?
Okay. Yes. Good. We can hear you now.
I think it's a network that is fluctuating.
Yeah, I think it's the network. Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that if someone says that we should keep silent because we are not qualified, because I've not become a Maya backward, then nobody should preach. Only Srila Prabhupada should preach. We are preachers. And a preacher, who is a preacher? A preacher points out the wrongdoings and he highlights the good doings and encourage people to do good. That is a preacher. We're a preaching movement. Our business is preaching. How can you preach when you're not going to point out the wrongdoings? That's not a preacher. Prahlad Maharaj, he pointed out to his father, you are doing these things you are doing is wrong. He's a Vaishnava. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pointed out to Sankazi. Sankazi was senior to him by age. Even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, before he became the devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept silent. He was very junior. He allowed him to speak for 7 days. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya spoke for 7 days. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept silent. He didn't speak. And he said, why are you not saying anything? I've spoken to you for 7 days. Is it that you are not understanding or you are so dull that you did not even assimilate anything? And at that point, he spoke. So we should not speak irresponsibly. But when the opportunity avails us, we should speak. And if we find out that in our circumstances we cannot speak directly, there must always be some authority that will be in place. We should speak to the authority in a very humble, compassionate manner. We become wrong when we ourselves are trying to be God. We may not be perfect, but we should not condone imperfection.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. As always, I have 2 quick examples to give to this beautiful topic. One was when Amsadrita Prabhu was expressing how difficult it is for like those who are Muslims trying to become devotees, how to defend or explain to their loved ones what Hare Krishna stands for. There was a time when Gurudev, His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj, had a TV program in Ghana. And there was one Muslim lady that we used to buy milk curd. We used to buy milk curd from this lady. So I had gone to buy milk curd from her. It was Monday. And the program used to be recorded on Wednesday and played on Sunday. It was called Contemplation. So this Muslim lady watched the entire program. And when I went to buy the curd the following Monday, she saw me and says, "Oh, Hare Krishna, did you watch your leader yesterday?" I did not watch it. At that time, I didn't have TV. You know the way they say don't have it, don't watch television programs. So I didn't have a TV, but I said yes, I watched it. And she said, "Oh my God, I wish all our imams, all our pastors are just like your leader. He is so sweet. I feel like wanting to be one of you," but he also told me that I can be like one of you as a Muslim. That is one scenario. So this lady listening to Dr. Marak speak is having a very good impression about Hare Krishna. Then another time, I had some people I used to preach to. There were like 7 of them. They were businessmen. And I had preached to them for so long, up to the point that if someone went and said something negative about Hare Krishna, they will always defeat the individual because I had spoken so much. They know me. I'm not a serious devotee, but they know how I try to live my life. And then one time, in the same Central Accra there, I went to their place and they said, "Haribo, I saw one of your people," because they had met one guy. He was dressed in street clothes, but he had a neck bead and he had a seeker. And this guy was a white person. You know, those days we didn't have many white people, so it was easy to be singled out. But they wanted to be 100% sure. So they went to him and they greeted him, "Hare Krishna." And he responded, "Hare Krishna." So they knew that it's Hare Krishna. But they saw this person smoking cigarette. So when I saw them, and it was that same day, almost around the same time, he says, "Haribo, I saw one of your people, one white guy, and he was smoking cigarette." I said, "No, that cannot be possible." They said, "No, we saw him, we greeted him." So I went to the place where they met this person. And lo and behold, I met this guy. He was wearing neck bead, he had seeker, and when I met him, he had lit cigarette in his hand, smoking. So I greeted him, "Hare Krishna." He responded, "Hare Krishna." Because I was dressed as devotee, he didn't feel comfortable. He was trying to find a way to hide his cigarette, but he couldn't. So these are some of the things we're talking about, that we are representing a system. And if someone is going wrong, to me, the difference is that someone is weak and falling short. It's a different story than when someone is going completely wrong and again claiming that what is doing is the right thing. That is where the problem lies. So, like I was saying, this particular text and the purport is so meaningful to all of us, that we all try to live up to expectation. And Anadi Nidanam Prabhu, I would also like to suggest this. The Bhagavad Gita verse you talked about, which is Bhagavad Gita 9:30, SALIKA Prabhu talked about it. I would also want you, and of course all devotees, to try our best to read this. This is Bhagavad Gita 9:30. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. Because we cannot understand what Krishna is saying to Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada helped us explain. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada stated this, It says, on the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in a transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less a declaration of war against the illusory energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subjected to such fall downs, as previously explained. And this is the powerful point. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. This is what Srila Prabhupada said, because Srila Prabhupada understood that some of us, including myself, will use this as a benchmark to do all sort of nonsense and still remain in Hare Krishna movement. But this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that it's not a high devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to explain to him.
Exactly.
It's an excuse. It's not an excuse at all.
So we've been here for 2 hours. Thank you so much. I didn't expect us to be here for 2 hours, but we've been here. SALIKA Prabhu, of course, we cannot thank you enough for this. I mean, there are so much services you engaged in, but this particular service of stepping in matter of minutes is very laudable, is very much appreciated by devotees, and I believe by Shri Guru and Krishna also. So may Shri Guru Krishna continue to bless you to do more and more. And devotees, we can't thank you enough for always giving us your association. There are lots of devotees here who don't talk much, but they're always here listening. I heard from one guru, he says, those who know, they speak, and those who are wise, they listen. So we have lots of wise people here. They always come to listen, to try to imbibe and use that. So we're going to humbly request you all. No, wait, Salika, if you may give a concluding remark briefly before we ask the witness to unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I think whatever needs to be said has been said in this verse. The important thing, the conclusion of this whole verse is just that it's making us to understand that ultimately the essence of this verse is telling us that we should understand that our activities in any circumstances affects what we represent. So we should be conscious in every activity, as the name of the organization says, being Krishna conscious. Krishna consciousness means we should be constantly, consciously, always remembering that we are not alone. As long as we are yes to Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, we humbly requesting you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all with one love, one heart, chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to our revered speaker, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu, for sharing his love and wisdom with us all. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Hare,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All
Tantra
practices.
Srimad Bhagavatam Praski.
Jai.
Jai. Gora.